No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
What's going on, guys? So I think to get a full grasp of what's happening in the Halo community right now, we first need to take a look at something that I'm sure most of you are aware of, that actually happened back in early 2012, when Bungie released a post on their website, halo.bungie.net, stating that the Bungie.net website would no longer be recording any of the statistics for the Bungie era of Halo titles. It reads as follows: "We have followed your career with great interest here at Bungie.net, and you have gifted us a mountain of heroic moments to memorialize. It's with a sense of awe that we step back and admire the impact that you have had on our games and upon our studio. Thank you for sharing your stories with us." For the almost 9 years since that post was made, all statistics prior were stored safely for us to return and look back on fondly as we please, until now. Bungie informed us yesterday at the very bottom of their Destiny patch notes under a bullet point labeled Dust and Echoes that by February 9th, 2021, halo.bungie.net along with everything stored will be permanently terminated, meaning that by the time this video is published, we'll have somewhere around half a month, depending on when you're watching this, to log back on and back up any screenshots, game clips, or statistics stored that you may want to keep before its removal. Lastly, we have the 343 industry side of things. Now, obviously, for the past decade, 343 have been in control of the franchise, and while releasing some questionable sequels to the Master Chief story, they have, with the release of MCC, stayed fairly true to the legacy games, and have apparently been hard at work trying to keep everything greased on the Xbox 360 titles up until this point. 343 released a post on their website, December 18th of 2020, stating that as of December of 2020, they were sunsetting the Xbox 360 titles altogether. Now, this post is pretty long, so rather than read the entire thing, I took the liberty of just taking some notes of importance along the way, which we'll go over real quick. For starters, they stated that maintaining the Halo Legacy titles requires too much of their time and resources, which is directly impacting their work in progress on MCC and Halo Infinite. Now, this one I can honestly almost agree with. If you're telling me that maintaining the ability for me to play a game that's 10 years old is affecting the progress on the release of a game that, mind you, has already underwent postponing by almost a year due to the pandemic, then so be it. I'll always take the route of receiving a more polished game over a sloppy or rushed one any day, and I'll take their word for it if they say that the original Halo's multiplayer existence is affecting that. They followed, with the legacy title's player base constantly dwindling and them needing to prioritize what will in turn have the greatest impact. I think this one was basically already covered in the previous point. The current project should basically just always be coming first. They actually recently halted the Xbox 360 digital titles in December of 2020, which honestly I didn't know about, and frankly I don't agree with at all. I mean, I'm sure they're just doing it because they don't want people to buy an older version of a game that's already included in MCC, and I'll go over why I think that's wrong along with the last point in just a minute. Any multiplayer achievements must be obtained before then, for they won't be obtainable anymore. Now, this one interests me because, though it doesn't really, directly affect me, because I've already achieved most of the ones that I feel like attempting, if I'm not mistaken, the Xbox One doesn't allow backwards compatible games if there are achievements that have become unattainable. Therefore, there could be a chance that once the multiplayer achievements are locked, they might just remove the legacy titles from Xbox One backwards compatibility program altogether. And finally, the one that really just gets me the most: all games affected exist in newer, modernized forms with improved performance. Now, I don't really agree with this one at all. Since the MCC released, I've never once looked at it as one of these games. It's kind of become its own game entirely, and while, for example, yes, Halo Reach is on MCC now, it's nowhere near the same as it is as a standalone. I mean, the aesthetic isn't the same, the leveling system is drastically different, and while I personally like both of them, the original Reach has a certain feeling that you just can't get from the Master Chief Collection when progressing through the ranks. Not to mention half of the maps and game modes aren't included on MCC, such as, for instance, Uncaged from the original Halo Reach for infection game modes is no longer on Master Chief Collection, and Griffball being another one that, as a game mode in its entirety, is not actually on MCC, but however comes as, I believe, a limited time game mode very seldomly, which is kind of weird considering Griffball, as big as it was, I feel like is a huge standpoint in the Halo community, and it doesn't really make any sense to me as to why they would opt for making it a limited time game mode when it's something that even I personally used to play all the time, but now that I can't, I definitely see where it could be needed on MCC if they decide to continue on with the termination of the Halo Legacy titles. And that's basically it for my notes. It seems to me like the reason behind Bungie all of a sudden after 9 years deciding to remove their Halo website is tied directly to this multiplayer shutdown. And honestly, I'm not sure how this could be nearly as hard as they're making it out to be. I mean, if a game like Call of Duty, who literally releases a new installment every year deeming their previous obsolete, can keep their servers up for basically every previous game to date with little to no maintenance on their older titles. And if I had to guess, I'd say basically no maintenance, because for anyone who's played recently, I'm sure you've noticed that, I mean, basically all of the older Call of Duties are completely modded out. I just can't begin to understand how time or resources have anything to do with it at all. I'm not saying it doesn't, because I have no idea what it takes to keep a game's like online multiplayer up and running. But I mean, when was the last time Halo 3 was updated? Hell, Halo 4 for that matter. I mean, it just seems like kind of an elaborate cover for them to finally clean up the remaining players and bring them over to MCC, where they, I mean, I essentially want them on a game that they created, you know, not Bungie. And I mean, in conclusion, I guess it's finally the end of a chain of games that helped shape the very person I am today, honestly. I mean, incredible memories made with some incredible people playing some of the dumbest maps and weirdest game modes of all time. And, you know, come less than a year and basically beginning in less than a month, that's all there'll be is, you know, memories. And that's not to say that we won't make plenty more. You know, MCC is an amazing game that I'm nowhere near finished with, and Halo Infinite is right around the corner. I can't wait to see where 343 takes us on this next installment, and really between then. But if you like this video, please don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe with the notification bell turned on and stay up to date with all future uploads. Thank you.